Hello and good morning. Welcome to Ask the Expert, an award-winning daily series from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. Now, ask any questions today in the comments below or use the hashtag QBATE. If you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. During the live session, we will be running a poll, so please do engage with it, and I'll reveal the result at the end. So to give you a bit more information about who I am today, I have run several Ask the Expert sessions before for QuickBooks, and I am I run a number of businesses from an award-winning accountancy firm to a number of e-commerce platforms. I specialize with kind of the financial aspect of any business, so business mentoring, for instance, or whether you're talking about automation or marketing. I have worn a number of several different hats, and here today to help you excel your business. Now, obviously, over the last couple of weeks and months, we've seen certain changes. Recently, the lockdown again, and I think what I wanted to really cover, other than the compliance and the automation that I have previously covered in my sessions before, I thought it would be an great opportunity to really talk about some of the businesses I have come across that have actually progressed, that have launched during these challenging times. So we're looking at times businesses such as e-commerce, or we're talking about businesses that are PPE. I've come across a number of businesses whilst being an accountant, and obviously we get to see the ins and outs of pretty much every single business, whether it's from the financial aspect or from a forecast aspect, where they aspire to be in a couple of months or a couple of years. And one of the things that I've realized is a lot of businesses now, they're going online, they're going digital. If they're a new startup, they're thinking actually, let's move away from brick and mortar. There are certain businesses that they're looking at this from a completely different perspective, and they're thinking actually we can get shops and office premises relatively cheap in the next 12 months, perhaps. So why not avail this for a 5-year strategy? And I think this is a question that you need to ask yourself is, do you have a brilliant product? Are you in retail? If you are, I mean, certainly there's going to be a market for that. But it's a bit like what I was watching the other day with Aldi. A brilliant business model, brick and mortar business, but they weren't fully digital. And obviously, March came, unfortunately, with the aspirations of launching another 50 to 100 other stores. It went south, and the main reason was they just didn't have an online presence. And as we know, with COVID around, all the businesses essentially, they were under lockdown. If they had to trade, it had to be through online. If you're a consumer, you had to trade through online. Otherwise, there was the telephone. Literally going into a premises, possible, but huge reduction in business. So I think at the moment, in the next 12 months, there's still uncertainty. I know we've got the vaccine around. I know it's going to improve things. But remember, there's a lot of theories out there to say even if the vaccine did work, there's a very good chance that we might have phase 2, phase 3 of those vaccinations. And as a result, there's still uncertainty. So I think whatever business venture that you do look at, whether that's brick and mortar, whether that's online, you should have a digital presence nevertheless. If you're let's say you're a digital marketing agency, and we've got several dozen clients that are digital marketing agencies doing really well. Yes, they've had a online presence, but their clients who have approached them to set up a website, perhaps they've not fully been online with the e-commerce aspect. And that's an interesting aspect, because if you sell goods and you've got a website, well, that's brilliant, but you're not fully digital, because I can see your online presence, but I just can't purchase from you. And so having that option to be able to remotely purchase goods and services, perhaps from your e-commerce platform, your i.e. online platform, then I think that's a brilliant opportunity to be able to you cut your costs. First of all, let's talk about, then let's really analyze some of the businesses that have benefited, that have worked with us, for instance, and they've not had those operational costs. They've not had to have or employ those sales agents, because essentially forms, for instance, or online tools that can assess what they need, um, can look after that, which means, well, actually less costs, huger margins. It also means huger conversions to an extent, because if you've got the opportunity to be able to sell everything online, and you've got a brilliant knowledge base, if they've got any FAQs, then that's brilliant. So I think a lot of businesses are now really looking into aspects where you can have an online presence, and being able to have that online presence, you can pretty much answer any questions that you have. You can use various tools on those online presence platforms, whether that's your website or other digital platforms that you use, and if you have those tools that can take those questions, whether that's bots, whether that can use algorithm to understand, okay, order number 123, let's now have a look at this. I think what you can essentially do is cut down a lot of stack. It also means the customer can virtually go onto your platform and be able to look at your questions, Q&As, which they may have had to wait after 5:30. So I think it's really, really important to have that online presence going forward. And I think, a lot of people say, if, MTT didn't make you go digital, well, COVID certainly did. So I think it's a brilliant opportunity now to be able to avail that option, and really look at how your business can benefit by going digital, or by having the relevant automation. We've got some really interesting questions coming up, so please, do keep them coming in. I am going to be here today answering any aspect, whether that's business launch, whether that's an existing business that you have, whether you want to make that existing business super automated, or whether you want to make that a business where you want to grow that from a PPC, social media, whether you're looking to merge, or have a joint venture, various, or whether you're even thinking of an exit strategy. And by the way, just talking about exit strategy, I've come across a few businesses lately where they were doing extremely well pre-COVID. The market just doesn't, cater for that kind of business post-March, post-COVID. So what they've really looked at, they had this, goodwill with the business. They had a personal touch, and they were very reluctant. We had a chat with them, and the reality is, if they, took that money right now, folded and set up a brand new business, the rate of return would be much, much higher. Certain businesses, if you feel they're going to be on the decline for the next, couple of years, and you've invested a lot of money and it holds its value today, but it may not do in the future, one option is to consider that. But obviously, do look into various different aspects. Do speak to a professional. At the moment, we're seeing a lot of businesses being bought and sold. There is a lot of uncertainty, and I think, with the fact that a lot of people were thinking we'll go back into offices by September, it's not happened. It's clearly not happened. I think, will we be in the same situation in March of next year? And even if we are, will the consumer behavior change as a result? So you need to be asking these questions, and I think it's really, really important to be able to suss out what you have out there, and being be in a position where you own the business, and you don't completely lose half the goodwill just because next year there's further lockdowns, and you're thinking, actually, I need to hold on to this because I've built this business for over 10 years and it means a lot. So do look at those aspects. Well, like I said, we're getting really interesting questions coming up, so I'm going to start taking some of the questions. Do excuse my cough today, and so I'm just going to have a little bit of water. I can assure you it's not coronavirus. I've had several tests recently, so we've got questions coming in on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Facebook Messenger. So I'm going to start taking the first question. That's from Kenneth from Instagram. It's a direct message. Is there any way to project cash flow forecasts for a business that is yet to launch? We're about 2 months away from launch and want to make sure we have complete control over our expenses and marketing spends. I think that's a brilliant question, for a number of reasons, actually. And Kenneth, it's fantastic. You're looking at cash flow projections. A lot of new startups don't even look at that aspect. They think, all right, I've got a fantastic model, and all right, let's spend a bit of money, and they don't really forecast as such. So I think there are various tools. There are various templates that you can use. There are various platforms that you can use as well. And without being biased towards any one company, I'd Google cash flow forecasting tools online. There are software platforms out there that where you can say, in month 5, I'm going to have, so in your question you talk about expenses and marketing spends. So in month 5, I'm going to be spending £10,000 for a website. In month 6, I'm doing an exhibition. In month 7, so what you can certainly see is, okay, this is where I'm going to be with my cash flow. But in month 3, I'm going to get maybe a client because I've got an order already coming through. That's very promising. Maybe you can put a contingency to say, if that doesn't happen, what's the knock-on effect on my cash flow requirements, and therefore ultimate profitability. If you've got partners, again, that's really important, and really important to be transparent as well. So I think there are a number of ways that you can forecast. Even if it's yet to be launched, I think have a look at a number of practical examples. So, for example, if you think, okay, well, I need to launch my business, but okay, let's sit down. What do I need? These are the top 10 things I need, top 10 expenses. Now let's go and find 5 suppliers and do a valuation of how much am I expected to pay for this project. So let's say you're about to launch a website. Well, that's going to cost X amount because I've spoken to 3 vendors. On average, I've got this quotation. At the same time, you might have a requirement for a CRM. Again, look at various different requirements. These tools can also help you forecast whether you are looking for a top-end CRM or a bottom. What's the best case scenario or the worst case scenario? So do have a look at it. I think that's super, super important, especially during these challenging times. And it's great you're looking at that. We've got another message coming from Bruno from Twitter. It's a direct message. How can recent e-commerce startups deal with customer support and experience? I converted my restaurant to food delivery service, and I'm finding it difficult to deal with the volume of customer inquiries on my social services. Very good question, Bruno. Very good question. So look, you've got an e-commerce platform. You did the wise move. You try to kind of convert that into, i.e. your restaurant, into a food delivery service, which is fantastic. But now you're overwhelmed with the number of inquiries and managing them. Well, there is a solution, Bruno. There are a number of platforms out there that can link with your social media platforms, okay, from taking those inquiries, and actually a central place where you can manage and the response of your, let's say, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can manage that all in one place. So you don't need to log in into several different platforms. If you go a step further and you say, actually, Shoaib, I also want them to be able to, make an order. Well, you can still do that, and you can link those tools with a very, robust CRM, which can and integrate that with an intelligent bot. So the bot can take an order, and if they say, well, I'm looking for a pizza. Don't know if that's what you sell, but let's say it's a pizza. They'll say, okay, fine. So what kind of pizza do you want? And the bot will be programmed to say, there's 5 menus. To set all this up sounds crazy. It sounds massive. It is massive, but it's all worth it. If you can, invest about a week's worth of time setting this whole form up, what you'll realize is, well, your time will be free. Okay, I call it retirement. So if bots and systems and automations can do that for you, then that's brilliant. Now you can focus on another level and say, actually, how can I take advantage of this opportunity? We've got more questions coming. We've got a question from Giselle from Facebook Messenger. You talked about the importance of e-commerce. Building an e-commerce website seems like more complex process. Can you share some tips for beginners who are planning to sell online? Will I need to have a separate team to handle this? No, you don't need a separate team. Well, depends how big your business idea is. So let's say your business idea is, I don't know, let's say selling mouses, right? Computer mouses, computer equipment. Now, it's a tangible asset. You want to be able to present that online. Well, you need to make sure, first of all, the platform that you use for e-commerce is brilliant for the long term. And I'll tell you why you need to be thinking along those lines. There are certain platforms, they're brilliant, but they're not the best for SEO. There are certain open source platforms which arguably are much better if you get really good hosting, amongst other variable factors. But statistically speaking, their SEO will be much better if you were to put in the same amount of effort. You may need to kind of create your own website as opposed to a standard block version of a website, which still looks good. But if you're thinking about an e-commerce, go and research, open source versus hosting e-commerce platforms, and it depends what your budget is. You've got some of the bigger sharks that charge a lot of money. They've got a lot more features. But if you're only selling products with a few add-ons, nothing really complex, then actually a very small e-commerce platform can work. And there are free e-commerce platforms out there. You might just need the aid of a website developer who can then go in and set up the website for you, and that's absolutely fine. That means you've got the full control in your hands. I had a very interesting client who was selling COVID related products. Now they had a brilliant website. They were using a open source platform, so they tried to keep control. But when they started marketing the e-commerce platform, because it was regulated, you couldn't use certain keywords in social media advertising as well as PPC. So you had to apply for a certificate. It's a long process. Sometimes it doesn't work. So research your business, and look at what industry you're in as well. That can determine the e-commerce platform that you use. If it's highly regulated, you could be shut down. I don't want to scare you, but you could be shut down if it's a debatable industry. If it's not, and you want something off the shelf, there's plenty of companies out there. You pay X amount per month, and you don't need a website developer. You can do that yourself. If it's a new startup business, Gazelle, you can manage the business yourself. And I would encourage you to, because as a business owner, you need to understand how things work. Once you've figured that out at a high level, I don't mean kind of the design level, but on a high level, once you know that, then you can move that down, and again take on your first few employees. There are great apprenticeship grant schemes out there at the moment where you can move that piece of work down. We've got further questions coming from Andre from Facebook Messenger. Good morning. Is this a good time to invest in an IT infrastructure? I'm betting on digital to keep my business future proof, but I'm also wary of taking loans for the investment. What could be a alternative as an option? Well, I think that's a fantastic option that you have. I think one of the things that you do need to understand is, if you believe in your business, if you believe that you're going to be there after 2 years from today, then most certainly invest into the relevant IT infrastructure. Make sure you've got something there that that's credible, that's automated. If it can help you cut down the slack in the next few years, that's fantastic. remember, what are your competitors doing at the moment? They're doing exactly the same thing. They're investing into their processes to become a lot more efficient, which means in not so future distant, they can reduce their prices. Okay, perhaps. Okay, and if they can, then actually that puts you, in a very difficult situation. If they don't reduce their pricing and they become more profitable, they'll spend more money in marketing. Again, that puts you more, in an awkward situation. So certainly be looking into an IT infrastructure, and I think that this is a brilliant time. This is, I know our firm helps clients become e-commerce, become IT, set up their IT infrastructures to make them, help them automated. You can get in touch with them, and with one of the agents at Pearl Accountants. But yeah, I think this is super important. Depending on the size of your business, you could be looking at a very small CRM. You could, we've helped a recent client on Salesforce, integrate from their QuickBooks to Salesforce, and in between they had another e-commerce platform, because Salesforce e-commerce platform was super expensive, and they had bots in between. So they had a lot of automations using Zapier, and this was a service-based business. So they've set up proposals in between, so you could go on to these documents where you can go and e-sign your contract, essentially. So it cuts down a lot of the stack, and Slack, and the operational costs that you currently have. So I do think, yes, it is a good time, Audrey. I think this is a really good time, but it does depend on your budget. If your budget is quite tight, and you're already struggling, maybe do a cash flow forecast. Speak to an accountant. Christina from Twitter, direct message. Hello, I have a retail shop and I have been selling on eBay to expand my reach. Fantastic. Any tips on how I can automate my inventory management system? Is there any tool app that does inventory management along with other business processes? I don't want to change multiple tools at the same time. Christina, fantastic question. Have a look at we've actually done extensive research for businesses that sell inventory, i.e. stock. We've partnered up with 4 different inventory management systems. If you go onto pearlaccountants.com and go into the stock management section, we've got 4 platforms. We've got a great comparison between them. Check them out. Yeah, we also offer free trials. So if you need any help guiding through, along with that, there are certain other business processes that can be implemented to cut down your time and help that tool to be integrated to your accounting solution. So I think do look at that. There are a lot of things that can be done there. What's the best business advice you've got? What's the best business advice I've got? To be very honest with you, Neil, from Instagram, I'll be totally honest with you. I've received a number of different business advices, and to be honest with you, it's a difficult one, because sometimes it can be about go and do what go and do. I think if you believe in it, go for it. I to be very honest with you, I've come across more negativity in the past, where I have been pushed to say, well, no, I think this business shouldn't work, and I've had to then kind of critically analyze whether this business venture is going to be a success or not. And I think, in a way, that's fantastic. I'm grateful I've had that kind of advice, and that's made me really analyze whether those business ventures are going to be successful or not. So I think it's a difficult one. I think there's a lot that can be said here. We've got another question, Damon from Twitter, direct message. Hi Shoaib, about exit strategy. Can you share some advice on how we can evaluate when is the right time to exit, and how we can find a buyer maybe? Well, look, we have a network of clients. We've got thousands of clients, and they're always asking very similar questions to yourself. The reality is, Damon, better than we do when is the right time to exit, because you know your industry better than we do. We deal with a number of different industries. What I would ask you to do is really research what's out there. And then really also, if you're thinking of exiting, get a market valuation. We've done market valuations on PE ratios, asset base, and it also depends on your industry. Would look at what kind of business industry you're in, what's your forecasts, etc. There is no real time for exit, to exit. It depends. It just depends on your business model, really. We've got a question from John T from Facebook. Hey, do you use any productivity tools? I'm freelancing alongside my day job, and managing my projects is becoming a hassle. I don't mind spending money on pay tool if it helps me manage my time and projects better. Fantastic question, John T. And we do. There's a number of tools that we can recommend. Sorry, we're running a bit of time, but do have a look at on our website on Pearl Accountants. There's a number of productivity tools that we've recommended, and we do to our clients. Guys, the poll results are in. So we did ask you, do you feel confident your business will thrive in 2021? So, wow. Okay, so 50% of you said yes, and 50% said no. Wow. I suppose in the last few months, it would have been probably 75 said yes and 50%, 25 said no. So I think there's a lot more uncertainty now. Very, very interesting results. And I think this is why, think about all the things that I've talked about today, business exits, or upscaling, marketing, look at the whole spectrum, and that's super, super important, guys. Anyway, look, if you've got any more questions, then do get in touch with the QuickBooks team or myself on 0208 582-0076. You can also visit our website on pearlaccountants.com. Coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow is Alex Steed, who's an accomplished photographer and entrepreneur who specializes in travel, lifestyle, and adventure. He has over 1 million followers across social media and produces content with a number of global brands, including Nikon, Mercedes, and many others. A reminder that if you need any more advice, guys, join the official QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. Thanks for watching, and I've really enjoyed answering your questions this morning. Have a lovely day.